So today I'm going to talk about my very first DMT trip, which taught me that the entire wealth of human knowledge is a drop in the ocean of the things that we do not know that we do not know. This is back in like 2015. I had just gotten my hands on some DMT. I just heard about it on the Joe Rogan podcast like a few months beforehand, and I was super excited, even though every description I'd ever heard of it was kind of vague. And so I sit down and I just poured. I don't know how much to take. I had like 50 milligrams. So I poured it all into the pipe and just ripped it. And I remember Terrence McKenna talking about doing at least 3 hits. I wanted to be sure that I got an experience, so I took 4. And on my second hit, I started getting a little like in my ears, and my feelings started to shake, almost like I got hit with a wave of vibrational energy. And at the time, I was like a very materialistic atheist, grounded in this reality kind of person. Um, you know, Even when I was a kid, like my whole life, I'd been this way. So on my fourth hit, I feel my soul kind of ripping out of my body and shooting into space, right? And then as I'm shooting through space, I almost like lose consciousness or lose track of where my consciousness is. And I find myself in a like large metal cylinder, and it's like opening up. It was enclosed and it's opening up. And I sit up and I see this little dude. He's like painted pink and black. He's in a spacesuit. And I just immediately recognize him as like my little buddy. That's the best way I could describe it. But there was this feeling of familiarity, and the whole room was kind of dim, and there was like a greenish lighting effect towards the floor. But anyhow, so I end up just getting out of that tube I was in or whatever, and I start following my little buddy down the hallway, right? We leave that room that I woke up in. And I'm walking by a bunch of reflective surfaces, and for whatever reason, I look at them and I notice, oh wow, my skin is green and scaly. And for a moment, like everything in my head just freaks out, like a millisecond, not even a moment. Next millisecond, this wave of calm washes over me, and it's like, dude, you've always been a lizard man. Why are you tripping out? And like for whatever reason, I that resonated with me, and I just went back into normal. Then I keep walking down the hallway, following my little buddy, and I see this like being, and it's floating. It's like it doesn't walk; it's floating, and it's got a bunch of eyes that are almost like tentacles, and they're looking all over the place, right? And uh, it had almost like a smokiness to it. Like when you look at it, it looked like it pixelated. And as I'm walking up to this being or walking by it, passing in the hallway, I had this overwhelming sensation of fear or getting found out, or like a light of truth going to shine into me, and I'm not going to like what I see or what it sees. And, I'm having all these judgments. I walk by this being, and right as we're passing by each other, I feel all the tentacle eyes like look at me, and I feel this radiating sensation of love. Like this thing has all this love for me and empathy for me or whatever. And it was like an unconditional love. And I realized in that moment, I'm like, oh, I was judging this being, fearing this being. And you know what? I was judging it just by how it looked and all my assumptions about it. And when I experienced, its presence, and I realized like, oh, I'm just passing judgment. I'm judging books how by their cover, not based upon what's inside, and their intentions for me. So anyhow, that kind of resonated. I keep walking down the hallway, and when I get to the end of this hallway, there's I forget it was 5 or 7. I just remember that one of those two numbers. Lizard men in cloaks, like full conspiracy theory kind of stuff. And here's the thing, like before this, I was never into conspiracy theories. I just wasn't really like that internet savvy. Even now, I'm not that internet savvy. But so like this council or group of dudes, lizard dudes, they were in this room with no corners. It was a circular room, and it was the only time I'd seen a window in this spaceship. So I didn't really know it was a spaceship until I saw this window beyond my own like intuition, I guess. And in that window, I see this planet, right? It looked kind of like Earth. And in the center of the room, there is a table. And in that table, there was this like projection that came out as I walked in the room of the Earth, or of that planet out there, which I understood to be the Earth. And that council of beings comes up, and they just show me missiles hitting the Earth. And instead of, as they're hitting the Earth, though, on that hologram, the planet outside is getting hit by missiles. But instead of freaking out like anyone who would see a planet being destroyed that doesn't work for the Empire, I was like, oh, this is the Earth going through ego death, collectively. And those beings, the 5 or 7 dudes, whatever, lizard dudes, they were essentially showing me the planet again. They put it back together, and they picked out like a bobblehead that looked kind of like me now, but a lot more grays and white hair. And they handed it to me and said, "This one has purpose." And I hold this bobblehead, I look at it, and as I'm looking back up from it, I'm I'm done. I'm coming. I've come all the way back down for the trip pretty much. I open my eyes and I look around the room, and I get this feeling of like, man, I thought I knew everything, or I had a good idea of how everything worked, but I realized the entire wealth of human knowledge is a drop in the ocean of the things that we do not know. The only thing I can be sure of is my own ignorance. And like, it changed my life in like a 10-minute experience. It changed how I saw and dealt with the world. And now, years later, like I had done it, I kept doing it. Obviously, like you have an experience like that, you're gonna go back a few times and see what you can learn. And DMT has given me, like, it's given me investment advice. It helped me pick which house to buy. It's fixed, like back pain that I had. Friends that have done it, with me. I've seen, like, it's so crazy to see someone change in a 10-minute span. Then like you follow up with them 6 months later, and they're a different person. Like they're more, in my experience at least, more compassionate, more open minded, more flexible in their thought. And I think something like DMT makes it harder for you to be manipulated by the typical like dualistic manipulation that we tend to experience in this life. But anyhow, that's all I got. I don't know if any of y'all have had any great psychedelic experiences that you want to share, or like if you guys want more DMT stories, I've got a plethora. But also, the crazy thing is, like the DMT beings, really, really, like every time I went back for years, would tell me to meditate. And when I started meditating, I learned how to like use breath work to release DMT androgynously, which is an even more potent experience. It's kind of mind blowing that this chemical exists within us, within every living thing, and it's so simple, the chemical structure of it, at least from my understanding, and it just kind of goes ignored for whatever reason. But yeah, uh, I think that I really think that right now things are getting so weird that like DMT might be the only thing that can wake us up from our collective slumber. I think everyone's getting so like negative about the world, and that makes you feel like disempowered, or disenfranchised or whatever. And I just feel like now is a great time for us to start thinking out of the box. It's obvious like previous generations have dropped the ball so hard. And if we keep going down the path they're going, we'll either die in a nuclear holocaust or live in some sort of 1984 Orwellian dystopia. And I think we can do better. And I think, our children deserve better, and our grandchildren deserve better. But it starts with us, and we got to be the change we want to see in the world. And I really think things like DMT, mushrooms, meditation are all catalysts for that change, because they can be a method of, instead of getting lost in the puddle, the ocean puddle of knowledge available on the internet, you can find depth with this kind of stuff. Anyhow, yeah, let me know if you guys want to hear more stories. I got so many of them, and share what you got. Like, I love hearing about people's experiences with psychedelics and how they help them, or even bad trips. I love a good bad trip story, which even bad trips are great teachers.